Today we're going to talk about Pusvalía tax and the recent history of the different changes that we've had in relation to this tax. I'm Michael Davis. I'm a Spanish lawyer. I've been in practice since 1996. As far as conveyancing, I work mainly in Andalusia, but my main expertise is inheritance. I have inheritance in Spanish wills, and I handle this all over Spain. So, okay, the other thing is why am I doing this from the car? Well, time is a limited resource. I spend a lot of time in the car, and I always think I should be doing more videos. And well, today we're in a sort of traffic jam here, so I thought, hey, let's go ahead and do some videos. So today let's talk about this Pusvalía tax, because people are getting very confused. Pusvalía tax is like a local capital gains tax, and you pay on any transaction involving a property in which the property is transferred and as the ownership is transferred. So for example, you'd pay it on a sale, you'd pay on a donation of a property, you'd pay on the inheritance of a property. In all cases, the Pusvalía tax is paid by the person that is disposing of the property, unless it's agreed otherwise, except for an inheritance where it's paid by the beneficiary of the estate. Over the years, there's been a lot of claims and counterclaims against the administration in relation to this tax, because it has had a strange method of calculation in which basically the Pusvalía tax was calculated based on the increase of the cadastral value of the land under the house. And even if you're in a complex, there's always a percentage of the land assigned to the property. So in all cases, it was subject to Pusvalía tax. But what was happening is that in the time of the credit crunch, a strange thing was happening, and that is that the national capital gains tax was obviously mostly exempt because people were selling at a loss, and yet Pusvalía tax was always charged by the town hall, because it was based on this hypothetical increase that basically increases in a semi-automatic way every year. So it didn't matter really what the market was doing, there was always Pusvalía tax. So some people took this to court, and in the end the courts clobbered the Spanish system a couple of times, saying that if there was a total loss, there was a couple of sentences there, there's a total loss, it shouldn't be charged. In other words, if you bought for 100, now you're selling for 60, you couldn't be charged Pusvalía tax. So the Pusvalía tax kept going, but in the end there was a mega sentence. I can't remember now if it was last year or the year before. You can look it up online exactly what the date was, which changed everything. Because what that sentence actually said is they literally declared the Pusvalía tax in its present form, in the form it was then, as unconstitutional. But it says that it did so without reciprocity. Okay, the reason they did that because it would have literally bankrupted all the town halls in Spain. So they did it without reciprocity. I think it was the sentence was a bit political. So for 3 or 4 weeks we didn't have any Pusvalía tax. It was curious because people that died when they declared it unconstitutional, and the new Pusvalía tax that was created a few weeks later, somebody died, they wouldn't pay Pusvalía tax. If the sale went through during that period, I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 weeks, there was no Pusvalía tax. It drove all lawyers crazy because we didn't know whether to retain, not retain. Nothing was clear. But in the end, those people that they're inheriting property of someone that passed away during those 5 weeks, or a conveyance went through during those 4 or 5 weeks, in the end they didn't pay Pusvalía tax. So in the case of Pusvalía tax on inheritance, it was all dependent on the date of death. That's how it went in the end. And the case of conveyancing was all dependent on the day that completion took place at the notary. So there was that sweet spot of 5 or 6 week Yes, it did happen. People did not pay Pusvalía tax. And then we had a bit of a grey area, because it was clear there was no reciprocity. At least it was clear in that sentence. There are some people that are probably going to dispute this as well, but at that moment in time, there was no reciprocity. So if you had already been billed Pusvalía tax on a previous transaction and you'd already paid it, there was no doubt that in those cases you couldn't claim it back, at least from that sentence. And it doesn't mean there's not going to be another sentence in the future, but at least at the moment that is the sentence that we've got at the moment to go on, and you couldn't claim money that you'd paid on a transaction 2 years earlier. And this of course all sounds very unfair, so probably somebody will make a claim. Now, where is the grey area? Well, what happens to people that had done a transaction previously, but the town hall had not actually sent out the bill yet? Okay, well, in the end, it has become fairly clear that in those cases where the town hall had not actually sent out the bill for Pusvalía tax, even though the transaction happened earlier, and that now again, that we can claim that you don't have to pay. Okay. Now let's take it one step further. What happened in those cases where the town hall had communicated the existence of the Pusvalía tax, the amount, but it hadn't actually been paid over yet? Okay, so in principle they're saying those people do have to pay, but again, I think that's probably, if the amount is high, it's probably worth a claim through the courts. Maybe not if it's a small amount. So that's sort of that situation for those people that were caught in the middle of all this. So what happened? How does the new Pusvalía tax work now? Okay, well, so 4 or 5 weeks later, they created the new Pusvalía tax, valid from that moment onwards, and basically the new procedure to get around this possibility of being declared unconstitutional, what they did is now there's going to be 2 systems of calculating the Pusvalía tax, and the taxpayer can choose which one they want. So what they did is you can choose the old system based on the theoretical increases of the catastral value of the land, one option, or option 2, we base it on real increase of the value of the real increase of the value of the land. Now, the way they've done it is that this second method, in almost all cases, ends up being much more expensive than than the old option. But because they're giving you those 2 choices, it is no longer unconstitutional. So what do you need to do? Well, if you're selling your property, it's important that your lawyer calculates Pusvalía tax for you using both methods. Normally, the older system is going to be the most beneficial, but if you have sold at a loss, or you have sold making very, very little money, exceptionally, in those cases it can be more beneficial to use the new system of calculation. So it's important that you just make the calculation in both ways. So in all cases now, under the new, because of this second method of calculation, if you lose money on the sale, you will not pay Pusvalía tax, which is good news. Okay, so basically 90% of people are going to pay exactly the same as they did before. This is based on the old system, but 10% of people will pay less by using this second system that's in place now, simultaneous to the old system. All sounds a little bit crazy, I know, but that's what we have, and that's what we have to work with. So I hope you found the video useful, and I hope this has helped explain the mystery of the Pusvalía tax. And if you found the video useful, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notifications bell. It's good to help people find our content, and it's good for us and good for the people that can stay informed. Thank you for watching.